Australia has new measures for incoming travellers in response to the emergence of the Omicron COVID-19 variant. All overseas arrivals into New South Wales, the ACT and Victoria are now required to get tested and isolate for 72 hours, a precautionary step which came into effect as of midnight. All travellers arriving into Australia who have been in the 9 African countries where the Omicron variant was detected must enter supervised quarantine for 14 days. All vaccinated Australians-based aircrew who have been to one of the 9 countries must also quarantine for 14 days. The changes announced by respective state and territory governments follow the introduction of additional national border security measures by the Australian government.
Just when we thought life was getting back to normal, the threat of COVID is back. As the world races to contain a new strain of COVID-19, Australia is taking immediate action.
We'll be implementing additional precautionary border security measures in order to protect Australians whilst more is learnt about the nature and impact of the Omicron variant of concern.
The Omicron variant has been recently discovered in South Africa. It has been described by World Health bodies as the most worrying we've seen and with higher transmission levels. In response, Australia has implemented the following precautions effective immediately. Anyone who is not an Australian citizen and who has been in the following African countries where the variant has spread within the past 14 days will not be able to enter Australia. This includes South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Lesotho, Eswatini, the Seychelles, Malawi and Mozambique. Citizens arriving from these countries will need to go into immediate supervised quarantine for 14 days. These restrictions also apply to international students and skilled migrants arriving from our travel bubbles who have been to the impacted countries. Anyone who has already arrived in Australia and who has been in any of the 9 countries within the past 14 days must immediately isolate themselves and be tested, and the Australian government will suspend all flights for 14 days.
We're in a strong position, but we know that acting early is what has protected Australia throughout the pandemic.
There are no known cases of the Omicron variant in Australia.
There have been people that have come from South Africa in the last 14 days into states without in the quarantine-free states in New South Wales, ACT and Victoria. We're following up with those jurisdictions.
There are 20 people in quarantine in Howard Springs in the Northern Territory who've arrived from South Africa in the last week.
Australia's decision follows the US, UK and European Union's decision to restrict flights from the region, which has a vaccine rate of just 46%. The World Health Organization has declared it a variant of concern.
We do not at this point have any clear indication that it is more severe or any definite indication of issues in relation to the vaccine. So I think they're crucial points. It's the reason why we're taking this precautionary approach.
We went through this with Delta, unfortunately. This is the sort of joke in the pack we were always talking about that could arise at some stage.
Australia is in a much better position now thanks to high vaccine coverage than it was at the start of the pandemic. It's a nervous wait to find out more about the strain, less than a month out from the Christmas holiday period. Danica Di Giorgio, Sky News.